Yeah. So it's already in my office. This old Taylor Swift calendar. So we got the day. So we got some more Taylor Swift ahead of us this year. Yeah.
But so that when you first got the Taylor, this is the way this stuff works. You get the Taylor Swift candle, and then eventually Taylor McGregor does a hit on the Taylor Swift candle.
Yes.
And then you get a basket filled with Taylor Swift candles is what ended up happening.
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly. And they're still coming. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Labs, anybody sending you candles?
Well, you put candles in the coach's room?
Yeah, so it was a nice touch for the coach's room. The overflow of the baskets, we started stealing them and bringing them to the coach's room.
Wow, that's a good touch. All right, back over here to the other side.
So obviously our outfield is very good right now. What are your plans on where are you going to put Saya this year?
Yeah, so I think Saya's going to DH a lot. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And you know, Kyle's going to play right field, Pete's going to play center, and Ian's going to play a lot of left field. You know, we feel like we have another outfielder in Saya if something happens to one of those guys. But we've talked to Saya this week about that, and he understands that, and he's on board with that. And things happen during a season. If it doesn't happen, it's been a really good season, and that means that Ian's been healthy, and Kyle. And if Ian and Kyle are healthy all year, and Saya's healthy all year, man, that's a good offense. I can promise you.
Yeah, how are you going to get all these guys at bats? How are you going to get all these starters innings? Are usually problems. I feel like even more so today, they solve themselves.
Yeah, the games haven't happened yet, and you know, like depth is, you know, it's kind of a boring word at this time of year to say, but you know, 162 games tests every team.
The young man's got the new blues on. DK, what do you think about the new City Connect alternates?
I'm in on them. Yeah, I love the hat. The uni looks really good. They nailed it with the guitar pick.
Yeah.
I think there's some nice little touches. So I'm excited to wear them.
Yeah, very cool. So we look forward to that. We'll go back to the other side. Go ahead.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to ask a question. So, Craig, I just got players. Sometimes they only have an opportunity that presents itself during the season. So Shota had the no-hitter going. Now he may get another chance to have a no-hitter, he may not. Do you have any maybe regrets? I don't want to be too critical of you, but do you have any regrets about not leaving him in the game to finish that no-hitter and make himself a part of history?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and I know it's you know, I know the no-hitter is important. You become part of baseball history. I also from my seat, I prioritize the player's health over history. That I have to, right? So I want to make sure Shota's healthy for the next time he pitches. I want to make sure Shota's healthy this year when he pitches. And so at that time, you know, in my estimation, like just his health and preserving health, he's at a pitch count number that you start to get into a dangerous range. That day, it's not dangerous that day. He'll be able to finish the game, and good chance he would have thrown a no-hitter. It's the next start, it's the following start that become the issue, and so for that reason, you take him out, and it's okay.
Good luck this year.
I mean, it's all, they're case-by-case basis. But I would still tell you that I'm going to prioritize his health over a no-hitter.
The other component that's changed in the sport is funny. When Japanese players would come over, pitchers specifically, we talk about, well, they only pitch once a week over there. Over here now, it's getting closer and closer to being fairly similar, the way teams are running their staffs, right? I mean, at this point, this past year, more starts were made on 5 or more days rest than on standard 4 throughout Major League Baseball. I don't think we're going back. So you're seeing more and more where you need 6 guys. You're either on a 6-man or 6-day rotation, right?
Yeah, when the game changes in those ways, there's a reason. And frankly, we're asking our pitchers to throw harder and harder. asking them to throw more demanding breaking pitches. And as we do that, it requires more recovery time. There are some special guys that can do both, but there's less and less. And so the health of the players, having your best players out there as many times as you can is really important, and it's hard to do, and we're trying to figure out ways to do it. That there is a trend now to kind of pitch guys a little, like you said, less. It's hard to do, it's hard to manage, but keeping them healthy, and you're taking feedback from the player as well. And that feedback is kind of telling us that that recovery, that extra day a lot of times is super important.
DK, how hard is it for you in terms of, with pitchers pitching less, it means hitters seeing more guys. So the preparation that goes into, think about what a bullpen day is, or, for a team. I mean, you're prepping for 8 pitchers, basically. What is that like for you?
Yeah, the starters, they throw less, they don't go as many innings. Our guys are not going to get that third at bat against a starter for the most part. And you just don't see them as many times. As we play everybody throughout the season in your division, you don't get as many at bats against that guy like you do, or you did a couple years ago. So it makes the preparation, the game planning, and just, I call it like a Rolodex. These guys have a Rolodex in their head of what that pitcher throws, how he throws it, and how he attacks him. And you just don't get as much good information because you don't see him as much anymore.
What are some of the trends in the game? I want all 3 of you on this. A couple of years ago, we were right in the middle of that 4-seam trend where everybody's throwing 4-seamers up at hitters because of a slight uppercut, type launch angle approach that just yielded a lot of strikeouts. The sinker was disappearing. I feel like it's starting to change a little bit. The numbers are saying the 2-seamers are coming back a little bit. What are some of the trends you've seen or are seeing in the game? And take it in any direction you want, whether it's stolen bases up in terms of the rate of attempting them, that type of stuff. What are some of the trends you're seeing?
Yeah, from the hitting or pitching side, I think we're seeing a lot more guys that have the 4-seam at the top. They have the 2-seam as well, and then they're adding a cutter. So they almost have 3 different fastballs, where it used to be if you had the sinker, you were kind of sinker slider or 4-seam curveball. But now we see those 3 different fastballs. They attack the top, the out, and the inner line. So that's something that's changed over the last 2 years.
So a guy used to be sinker slider, so it was basically down in this area, or it's 4-seam curveballs, so it was that flash. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a little more north-south. It was east-west, north-south. Now guys are just using all quadrants with different pitches.
What are some of the things you're seeing in terms of trends in the game, Flash?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know from a strategic standpoint, but certainly since the rule change, with the stolen bases and without the shift, it's definitely turned into a little more of an athletic game. And the ball's in play a lot more, the game's moving faster. So quite frankly, I think that the product of the game the last couple of years has been fun to watch from a coach even sitting there. They're going 2.5 hours versus the 4-hour game. So I think the last couple of years have been nice to watch that.
You? Trends?
Yeah, I mean, I think those guys hit on 2 of those. The pitchers have very particular arsenals for left-handed and right-handed hitters that are, every year it gets more. They're able to do more and more, every pitcher. And then the stolen base, which is I think it's a fun part of the game. I think it's going to be more and more and more. Teams are recognizing how much it can just change games. So it's something we spend a lot of time talking about for sure. I mean, in game we'd probably talk about the stolen base as much as anything, because especially in this division, there's a couple teams that are really good at it. So we spend a lot of time trying to defend it.
Over here, a question.
The trend is the Cubs are going to win the division and do well in the postseason.
I like it.
It's a good trend.
Yes. What do you got there?
My question is for Craig, the book, The Chicken Runs at Midnight, which is a great baseball story. And I'd like to know your take and your memories of the 1997 under Jim Leland and the run to win the World Series, and specifically the Chicken Runs at Midnight story.
Yeah, so the Chicken Runs at Midnight is a wonderful story. Do you want me to tell it, or?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So there was a coach named Rich Donnelly, who was the third base coach for that Marlins team. Rich had a daughter. Rich was formerly a coach for the Pittsburgh Pirates under Jim Leland, who was the manager of both of those teams. Rich had a daughter that was diagnosed with cancer. And when Rich was with Pittsburgh, she was going through treatments. She was in the hospital, and she would text her or call her dad, and they would try to have fun conversations that take her mind off things. And she would ask her dad. Her dad cupped her hands at third base. Say, Dad, what are you telling the runners? What are you telling those runners when you cup your hands? Are you telling them the chicken runs at midnight? And her dad kind of looked at her like, what are you talking about, Amy? No, I'm not telling them. So it became the family motto, the chicken runs at midnight. Just because it was a goofy thing that daughter said to her dad. Sadly, Amy passed away. I think in 1995. And on her gravestone, the family wrote, "The chicken runs at midnight." That's how much it meant to Amy, that little saying with their family. Fast forward to 1997. He's the third base coach for the Marlins. Rich's sons are the Bat Boys. I had somewhat of a strange looking batting stance.
You're gonna someone. I mean, in the history of the game, you're talking a top 5 stance.
That's your opinion, John.
Thanks. Continue, Craig.
So his sons referred to me as a chicken as I was hitting.
The chicken.
The chicken. And I kind of flapped my arms too, and it was strange. It was strange looking, I agree. Anyway, I find myself on third base in the Game 7 of the 1997 World Series. And Edgar Renteria is the hitter. 11th inning. Base hit up the middle. I score. And everybody's running around. You're running around like a little kid, right? You're as happy as you can be. You're hugging everybody. And Rich finds his son on the field, the Bat Boy. And Rich's son is bawling, he's crying. And he's like, Tim, why are you crying? We just won the World Series. He says, Dad, look at the scoreboard. Look at the clock. It's just after midnight. The chicken ran at midnight, Dad. Get a chance to read it's a beautiful story about kind of family, faith, and baseball. I didn't honestly know about that. I was part of the story for about 2 or 3 years, and Rich told me the story, and I bawled for half an hour because it's a beautiful story.
Beautiful. I get goosebumps every time that you tell it. It's pretty wonderful. Over here.
My name's Evan Meredith. I'm from Concord. Anyway, first of all, the City Connect is fun. Dang. Anyway, my question is, besides Game 7 of that World Series, what's been the craziest game you've ever been a part of?
Oh, wow. I'm going to give you so the craziest Cubs game I've been a part of was the game in Pittsburgh this year. Where we ended up winning like 14-11. We were down like 11-6 in the 9th inning. That was like a weird Twilight Zone. That game was crazy.
That was the Christian Betancourt game, right?
It was, yeah.
And then what about craziest crazy?
Probably the craziest crazy game where World Series games like 4 and 5 in New York in 2001. Derek Jeter hit a walk-off homer. It was after 9/11. I thought I was in an earthquake. The ground, I thought it was an earthquake. the ground was shaking on the field. We lost, you know, it was a game you lose and you're upset you lost the World Series game, but then you kind of put life in a bigger perspective and 9/11 and that. And it was truly special to be a part of that day.
What do you got, Flash? Games, like whether it's Cubs or playing, coaching, craziest game?
Well, before COVID, I played in a game that there was no fans in the stands in Baltimore. That was a straight.
Oh, that's the White Sox.
That became normal in COVID, but correct, yes.
Wow, that's right, because there was some rioting downtown, so they had a game, and so like nobody there.
No, nobody there, no fans in the stands. I was on the bench, so I actually spectated from outside of the dugout for most of the game.
Is that right?
Correct.
And was there stuff, could you hear like the announcers and stuff?
You could hear the umpire, the opposing dugout. Again, COVID, we became more used to that, but at the time it was surreal.
DK, you got anyone in your...
The Pittsburgh one for sure. The bases loaded walks were so unique. We walked a couple times with the bases loaded. And then Counsell went like this, but 2 years ago in 4th of July game in Milwaukee when Hammer threw those guys out. They're so wild. You just don't see that. That was a wild one in this setting.
It was a pretty good story. It was that you guys tweaked Jason Lane when I guess it was later that year, and you're managing the Brewers.
Yeah, so the third base coach takes a lot of heat when runners get thrown out of the plate. Both of those throws were like just great throws by Ian. But to have a game, to have an outfielder throw out 2 runners in consecutive innings at the plate is like another beautiful part of baseball. But the next time we came to Chicago, I had one of the young coaches randomly at the end of our scouting meeting ask Jason Lane if he was concerned about Ian Happ throwing people out. And it like really when a runner gets thrown out of the plate, it hurts the third base coach. Like you don't see it, but it hurts him. It really hurts him, and he feels it, and he's gonna not sleep that night. I promise you, he does not sleep that night when a runner gets thrown out like that. So I think Jason thought he had forgot about it. He had thought he had blocked it out. And I make sure to bring that stuff up. I like to address we have to address those things that bother us, right?
I had a funny one a couple of years ago. I think it was my second year as a Cubs announcer, and I normally do something at baseball. And so I had to miss the Cubs Brewers game, the monthly game of the day. And I went to go see your kids. So I'm watching the Cubs and the Brewers at the house. Your wife's there, and your daughters are there, and your brother-in-law, and your in-laws. So the game's on, and the Cubs are up 1-0. And I'm in my friend Craig Counsell's house, and the Brewers hit one down the line, somebody scored, and I blurt out, "Damn!" And the entire family whirls their head around because I'm like, the Brewers just tied the Cubs. And I'm like, what? And they all carded me for it. And then you said I knew that was gonna come. I knew that was happening. So
I'm on your team now.
that's right. Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate it. It's great stuff. Frank Counsell, Ryan Flaherty, Dustin Keller.